Secret of Jewish femininity.
You gotta read the,
Yeah, you have the paper to read.
we're gonna read it. Gonna have it in a minute.
Give me the Debbie Lipstadt book back. I want to read it. Gee, what kind of library? There's a book in the He doesn't.
Mili. Mili Dishmaya. That's my new name. Mili Dishmaya. There's Mili Dialma.
How come your Gemara wasn't here this morning when I came in?
Because I left it here in the my locker overnight.
Your hat wasn't here either.
I left my head over there too.
Huh?
Which one?
It's not a
I
good book.
prepared yesterday, so that I would know what's going on. I hope I know what's going on.
Yeah.
Don't take it out of the village because it's low chop.
Hey.
If someone gives a slave to a Kohen, can the slave be truma?
Oh wow! That's they can. If he owes him, if he owes him, then he can.
What if he refuses the slave?
He can't.
What if he refuses? He refuses the gift.
So you're already giving an exam before the class here.
I'm asking you about the Gemara. You said you learned it already.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. That was, I had another head.
He's giving an exam.
Oh. He has to own it. No question.
But if it's given to him and he refuses it,
Oh, no, no good. Well told.
there's an opinion that says that he can eat truma.
That's because he was. That comes from a former Eved who said that.
No. Because there's an opinion that says that he acquires it even if he refuses it.
You'll be interested?
What's the title?
Search of a Jewish Woman.
Oh.
He's single.
Okay, absolutely. That's a good title. Mili.
Mili Dishmaya.
Let me see that. I'm looking for a woman.
Right, I forgot.
When my father was got his first shul, so the people he was a kid, and so they told a very old couple, like way up there, 80s, 90s, married for years and years. They said they want to have a mock wedding, just to have a mock wedding, like they're getting married again, to enjoy it. So they make a whole thing, and my father's there. They're not going to say the brachas with Hashem's name or anything like that, but they're doing it. And all of a sudden, the woman says, "This guy, he's a bum. He's a this. I would never marry him." My father is standing there, the color drains from his face, and he's looking up. It was a practical joke. The whole show was playing on my father.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a terrible joke.
Yeah.
That's a terrible joke.
Yeah. We're gonna wait.
That as usual, sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Today, the learning sponsors for the week. First of all, the Year of Learning. Friends and family of Arthur Ritholtz, Mordechai Yidl, Ben Baruch Lipa. Friends and family of Ziggy Bessler, Shalom Shraga, Ben Dove. Friends of Marvin Weinstein, Mordechai Ozer, Ben Yisrael Aharon. Sarah Albert, in memory of her husband, Harav Tzvi Lipa, Ben Hillel. Bella and David Adler, in memory of her father, Eliyahu ben Yosef HaKohen. Friends of Honey Chafetz, Chana Shoshana Bas Yosef. Friends of Jack Prince, Yaakov Yitzchak ben Shmuel Dov. Friends of Sandy Davidoff, Shlomis Bas Chaim Eliyahu. Friends of Judy Cohn, Yehudis, Liba Bas Moshe. Friends of Dr. Annette Zafransky, Hannah Bas Ephraim Fischel. Gail and Leslie Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Mushka Sprinzer Bas Yosef Chaim Pava.
What top are you on?
Kanan ben Moshe Eliezer Chana, Tesha Bas
Kuflam
Shmuel,
Zion.
Yitzchak Halevi,
That's right.
Litzipora,
The bottom
Yisuf
of
Ben
Kuflam
Yoel
Zion
Moshe
are the
Cohen
last.
Elkanah. Friends of Linda Katz, Linda
Yeah.
Bas Yehoshua, Lee and Harvey Greenberg in memory of their parents, Esther Bat Eliezer, Yaakov Yosef Ben Avram, and Sarah Rivka Bat Baruch Yehuda, and Betzalel Ben Alevi. Now those that contribute to a month of learning, Ronald and Susan Podolsky in memory of his father Tzvi Ben Pinchas, Charles Gelfenstein in memory of his mother Garcia Gittel Bas Meir Halevi, Charles Gelfenstein again in memory of his father Meir Ben Yaakov. Week of learning by Michael and Sharon Blanche in memory of his father Yitzchak Tzvi Ben Yechiel Michal. And Lala Besta in memory of her mother, Reindel Bat Yechiel. And day of learning, today is the 11th.
10th.
No,
Today's
the
the 10th.
10th, right. Harriet Brick
Today's
in
the
memory
10th.
of her husband, David Pinchas Ben Zorach Do. All of those who
Well, that's
contributed,
it.
greatly appreciated. They all in the Shem 7 Aliyah.
Amen. Well, so we're both at the bottom. Kuf Lamed Zion Amud Beis, 4 lines in the bottom, smack in the middle. I'm Rabbi Yehuda. So now this is an interesting point. We have to know sometimes a person's words and actions don't fit together. Which one do we listen to? So I'm Rabbi Yehuda Mar Shmuel. He said, a guy writes his possessions to somebody. A guy wants to give somebody his possessions in a star, a piece of land, and Ramallah, the recipient, he says, I don't want it. I don't want the gift. So the first opinion says, what? Even though he said that, he still acquires it. Even though he's standing and screaming, he doesn't want it. It sounds very strange. How can it be? We'll see in a second. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, he didn't acquire it. Okay, God doesn't want. He doesn't want it. Any person can say, listen, I don't want this. There's no argument over here. This is not an argument. These are two people speaking in different situations. When Rabbi Yochanan says that he doesn't acquire the gift, but Savech Mikara, as the guy's giving him the paper to transfer the property to him, he says, I don't want it. I don't want the gift. Okay, and when we said that even though he screamed, he still acquired it. But Shosek Mikara, when he's actually handing him the paper, he's quiet. And only end, he's screaming. So that he already accepted the gift. There are other ways to read this, but I'm reading that's the way the Rashbam reads. He says, let me tell you something. He says, okay, what we saw now was the person in question, the recipient in question, is receiving the paper from the donor. But what happens when the person, you can acquire something for somebody else, okay? So that if you can give me a paper and I acquire it on behalf of somebody else, that also works. So now, what if the recipient watches the donor give the paper to a third party on his behalf? Okay, he says, if the donor gave it to the third part to him by way of a third party, the shasak and the recipient, when he saw it, was quiet. Okay, ulabasof sabach, and the end he screamed. That's an argument between Rishon and Gamliel and the rabbis. Notes, even though he only screamed at the end. Why? Okay, the tiny because we learned the cost of the chassav la'acher. Okay, you'll see. We're going to spell it out in a minute. A person sold possessions to somebody. Amongst those things were slaves. Okay, and the guy said, "Listen, I don't want these slaves. If slaves are big responsibility, I gotta feed them. Yeah, it's a gift. You don't want that gift. You want to feed slaves." It says, if this guy, the recipient, the second master Sheni, if the recipient was a Kohen, they eat truma. He acquired them, even though he said no, they can eat the truma. They're his slaves. Okay, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, he says no. He says no. Since this guy in the end said I don't want it, okay, for Zocha ben Yorshim, the inheritors of the donor already inquired. When he went back to the donor or to himself or to his inheritors. Okay, now we have an argument. Look, we're arguing here. One person says that he got the gift, even though he said no. One said no. But so they discussed it and they asked the kasha in the base measures. The Tanakama, okay, what are you talking about? The first opinion holding that what, even if he's screaming and yelling that he doesn't want it, that he got it. Everyone, no one argues that when he's screaming from the outset, the Lokani, everybody agrees that it's no good. If okay, so okay, so when he screams at the end, to call him a little pig, like we said before, if a guy screams at the beginning when he's receiving the paper, it's no gift. If he screams at the end, it's a gift. He says, "Keep pligid." Where's the argument? Zikaloi de acher. We didn't understand. That's the third case that we didn't say before. That what that the donor is giving it to the recipient by way of a third party, but shosak, and now the recipient, when he sees it being given to the third party, first he's quiet, and the end he screams. Now, before, when he was getting the paper himself, there was no question that what the gift went through. But here, it's through a third party. He was quiet first and then screamed. The Tanakama Sabar Midishasa, okay, Kaninu. The Tanakama says it's just like if he was receiving the paper. If he was quiet at the beginning, he got the gift. But okay, behind the Kotsavach Mahadar Hu the Kahadabe, when he's screaming at the end, he's reneging on his original acquiescence to receive the gift. Rav Shem Gamliel Sabai says no. So in this case, where it's through a third party, the end proves the beginning, and he never really wanted to. Why? What do you mean? Why was he quiet? Because he thought until it comes to his hand, he doesn't have to scream. He thought that he didn't really give credence to the fact that the third party was really his agent, was really receiving on his behalf, and he thought, I don't have to say anything till it actually gets to me. The truth, okay, and therefore we can say in this case, we can say, well, he really meant to scream. The fact that he screamed at the end in this case meant that he was screaming in the beginning. It was the equivalent, and therefore didn't receive the gift.
What happens to the whatever he's giving you?
It goes back to the donor, or it goes back to the donor? Assuming that he was successful, it goes back to the donor or his heirs.
It doesn't become hefka.
So once no, you're right. There's an opinion that it's hefker. That's correct. You're right. You're right. What you said. There's an opinion that becomes hefker. That's correct.
What it says.
Yeah, 100%. There's an opinion that becomes hefker. You're 100% correct. I left it out. You're right. That's correct. Yes. There's definitely an opinion that becomes hefker. Tanur Rabbanan. Let me see one thing. You're correct. You're correct. And I'll to that. Tanur Rabbanan. Good. Thank you. We are. I can't tell you the number. Yeah.
Bottom.
138.
A1 at the bottom of that page.
That's the name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Umid Aleph.
Tanur Rabbanan. Yeah, you said correctly. I'm sorry. Sometimes I miss. Tanur Rabbanan. We learned. Shri Beira. Okay, if a person was dying as deathbed. Shamar. Now here's what happened. Let's take a little introduction to make it easy. In general, when a person takes loans, he takes a loan. Each loan that he takes has a lien on his property. Okay, but if the property is sold, they have a right to claw back from a buyer. Now, but who has rights first? Let's say there were 3 loans. So simply each one in the order that they lend, they'll have the right. They'll have the first right. They'll have right to collect. So Shimon, a guy was dying, and somebody said 2 more times Zuz Laplon. He says, "Here, I want you to give 200 to Mr. X. I'm gonna write it down and give it. Shalosh Meos Laploni says, give 300 to another guy. Rabba Meos Laploni. And he says, what? And then he says, what? Give 400 to another. Gives one guy 200, the next guy 3, and the next guy 4. We don't say what? In that case, since they all 3 got, so you would think that everyone who got it first is the first person who got it. In other words, even though the 3 people got it, like the 100 guy got it first, the 200 guy got it first, the 300 guy got it second, and the 400 guy got it third. So you would say what? Who is going to be vulnerable to a collection of a debt? The last guy, you would think. Why? Because the first guy said, listen, I left property went to the second. The second I left went to the third. Third says I went to the fourth. Or even if it's metalton, they're collecting a debt. Okay, he says, Tuma Zaim Zuz Laploni. He says, give 200 to one, give 300 to another, 400 to another. Ein omrim kol hakodem b'shtar zacha. We don't say that whoever got it first, got his first and he's free. Lefikach, and therefore, yotzelav shtar chov, if somebody comes up with a paper that predates the gifts that this man gave, okay, you can't tell him what, okay, you go only collect from the last recipient. They all got it at the same time. The guy died. He just said it. He just say, what's he gonna do? He can't say three things at once. So he wasn't necessarily giving it to them in order. He was giving it to them. They're all gonna. He's gonna die. They're all gonna get it. He just can't. He can't speak three names at one time. So yeah.
But normally, when a shchiv meirah is speaking, his words count. Here they wrote down his words.
Yeah, they're gonna write and give it. They're gonna write and give it. No, you can say write it and give it. You write it down and give it to them. Write it down and give it to them. They write it and give it. They write it down and they give it. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. They write it. Remember.
He just says it.
Yeah, but it's like the same thing. But it's like you said, write it and give it. It's always write it and give it.
Is it always that way?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
That was just all for.
Yeah, I think so.
We would want to do it in writing anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. But and therefore, what Yotzov Shtar Chov, let's say a creditor comes out, okay, and he's owed, let's say, $9. The guy gave out altogether. He gave out 2, 3, and 4, which is what? Which is 900. He gave 2, 3, and 4. So he gave 2, 3, 4. So now a guy comes. Let's say he's got a thing for $9. He's got a bill of credit for $9. Gova mikulam. He takes from all of them equally, means equally in proportion to the money they have. In other words, you can't say what the first guy says, don't collect from me. He says, I got it first. I left room for you to collect from the next guy. So you think everybody he collects the whole $9 from the guy who got 400? No, he collects since this guy got 4 to this guy's 3 to this guy's 2. So you do a ratio 4 to 3 to 2. So if he had a loan, collecting a loan of 9. He'll take what is it? If you take 9, so it goes like this. He takes 4, 3, and 2. He'll take 4, 3, and 2. He'll take 4 from the 400 guy, 3 from the 300 guy, and 2 from the 200 guy. That'll be 9. So it takes proportionally. Why? Because really they all got it at the same moment. They all got it together. See, one guy, the first guy can't say that all responsibility went to the next guy. And the second guy says all responsibility to the next guy. Aval, that's true when it's clear he just said it, and we assume that he just couldn't speak at once, but he was really giving everything once. But let's say if he said, give 200 to this guy, and then he said the and after him, okay, the ploni give 300 to this guy. The and after that guy, okay, the ploni give 400 to the other guy. Where he said him and after him, and after him. Then we say what? We do say whoever got the paper first, whoever got the gift first, he wins, and therefore what? He gets the fikach, and therefore Yotzelav Shtar Chov. If the guy came up with a paper that says that the estate owes him $9, Kovanachor, he collects the whole $9. What? From the last guy. Because he said in order, he said, I'm doing it. He said, this guy, then that guy. So he wanted them to acquire in that order. Okay. And it's ironic. It's ironic though, because at first glance, who does he like best? The guy gave 200 to, the guy gave 300 to, the guy gives 400 to.
Well, I guess the last one.
Yeah, ironically, it seems like he likes the last guy best, but he put the whole onus on the last guy also.
That's the mamish like achron.
Chavib, yeah. So it's ironic. It's ironic, but in the end, the last guy gets all responsibility. Ain lo, okay, he says, but look, let's say the loan was for more than 400. So the last guy can't do it. Go over in the fun of the he goes back collects from the second guy. Ain lo, if even at 600, if even 600 wasn't enough, the loan's bigger. Go over to the fun he collects even from the first guy. How we learn? A guy's dying. He said, now this is really interesting. He says, give 200 to my son, Bechor, who's the firstborn, Karoilo, that he deserved. So he's saying what? He says, give it, okay, so note one, no, it's essentially he's giving a certain amount of his thing. You can remember a guy can give any amount. He doesn't have to give all the sons equally. He can say, I want this son to get this much. It's like, so he said, give 200 to my son as a Bechor, as is fitting for him. Okay, in addition to his firstborn. Note lunch, he takes the 200, but no tell as Bechoroso, he still gets the double portion of the firstborn. So he gets, so to speak, the adjusted inheritance, plus he still gets the double portion of the firstborn. But if the father said like this, he says, give this 200 to my firstborn as his firstbornship, okay, so then Yodo then he has a choice. He still is a winner because the father wants to help him. Rotza note, not if he wants. Let's say if the 200 zuz is worth more than his position as a Bechor, he can take the 200. Rotza note to Bechor. If the Bechor part is greater, he takes the Bechor part. The father gave him a prerogative. Okay, then we're going to see in a minute why. Okay, again, thing a guy's dying. He says, give 200 to my wife as it's fitting for her. No, last son, he wanted to give her a gift of 200, but no, let's go so basa, and she still gets her ksuva. Being Amar, but if he said big ksuva, so give her 200 for her ksuva, and she wasn't a first marriage. Her ksuva was really 100. He said, give her 200 as her ksuva. Yadal Yona, she still has an upper hand. She can do what she wants. Ratza not lost, and she can take the 200. Ratza, okay, no ksubasa. If for some reason her ksuba was more, okay, she can take that. But she has the chance. If she was not a first marriage, the guy gave her 200. She can take the 200 instead of her 100 ksuba. Third case, so Shimi Rasha Amar, a guy who's dying. He says, give 200 to such and such a guy. Give 200 to my creditor as is fitting to him. Same thing we say, okay, as is fitting to him. Okay. 1 second. Yeah, and if I left out the word before, it was a mistake. Again, he can take the 200 and still collect his debt. But if he said bechovo, same thing as before. If he said I'm giving 200 as his debt, no, okay, here he doesn't get the upper hand. He doesn't get a choice. He just takes the 200 as his debt, okay, and he can't like choose to get a different number. Okay, why? Because a guy loves his kid, he loves his wife, he doesn't love his creditor. And yeah. So he doesn't get it. Also, it looks a little like interest anyway. Okay. Now, says the Gemara, but I understand what's the whole point. Since he said as it's fit for him, you give him that and he can still collect his debt. And all the other cases, and she can collect it and still collect the ksuva. So the Bechor can collect it and still collect his double. The maybe I meant to say as is fitting. When he said 200 for my firstborn as is fitting, he meant 200 as his firstbornship, and that's all he gets. Okay, that's only the firstbornship. He doesn't get this plus. Okay, and the same thing with the woman would get, and the same thing with the creditor. Rav Nachman Amalahun, he says no. He says Amalahun, he says Huna. Why do you call him Huna instead of Huna? Because they were colleagues, they were friends. Okay, Havmani says no. Who's this according to Rabbi Kiva? This according to Rabbi Kiva was a special rule, and maybe it's not even debated. But we see the diaconation in Seirah. Okay, he knows when a person uses an extra language. Okay, yeah, the person is trying to add more. He's trying to give a benefit. When a person speaks more, he's giving a benefit. It's not because we learned earlier, okay? For example, if a guy said, I'm selling you this house, by definition, he sold the house. Below us a bar, we learned this earlier, not the water hole. Below us a dus, and not the cistern. So even though the house has a water hole and a cistern, he sold a water hole and a cistern and not a house. If he said, I'm selling you the house, he sold the house. And so the water hole and the cistern in the house belongs still to the owner? Yes. Okay. And Afal Kosovlo. Okay, Umka Baruma, and even though he said I'm selling you the house and its depth and its height, okay, he still never sold these things. Okay, he just meant to say that the upper floor, okay, and the parapet, okay, and the ground. He's selling him everything, but he wasn't selling that. And therefore what? But here's the main point. But and now when the owner wants to use that pit. And that cistern, he's gonna have to pay the guy who owns the house for the rights to walk through. He walk through. Why? Because Rabbi Kiva holds that when people sell, they sell with a gracious eye, and therefore he didn't hold back his rights to get to his places. After he sold the house and kept for himself the cistern or the water hole, he's gonna have to pay for right to pay the owner of the house to get to them. Okay, the Chachamim, the rabbis say no. Okay, he says what? He does not have to pay for the rights. Why? Because people sell in a stingy way, and and if he sold them the house, he still held back the rights to get to his cistern and his pit. Okay, even Rabbi Akiva, who said what? That he gave away the rights. That's when Bisman. That's only in a normal case. But Bisman Sha'amarlo Chutz Me'elo. If he said, "I'm selling you the house," except for accepting these things, which we already knew. A house, by definition, does not include the water hole in the pit, and yet he said, "I'm selling the house," and to the exclusion of these things, which is extra language. Okay, because he was not saying it. So therefore, what he was definitely trying to add and say what when he said except these now because he said extra language, he said not only am I not selling it to you, but I'm withholding my right from you the passageway, and I have rights to get to my thing. Okay, Shane.
The system isn't in the house.
It's on the property. However you look at it, yeah. I'm not even sure, but it's on his property.
It's in the house.
No, I'm not. I'm honestly, I'm not sure. You could say it's on the property, but he has to pay. He has to whatever it is. He has to pay for the rights to get to it. Whatever it is. If the guy, if the guy don't want to sell, he won't sell. I'm not sure. Teddy, you're right. I'm not sure. I'm not sure from here, but whatever it is, if he wants rights, he's gonna have to buy it, or he's not gonna get it. Okay. But here's the case. But you see what? That if he said an extra word, even though normally the cistern and the pit are not included in the house anyway. So he said something else. He said the exclusion of these things, which he never had to say. He's saying them by adding them. He says, not only am I not selling it to you, which was given, I'm holding the rights to myself to have access. Alma came in the Lotzarech. Okay, but since he didn't need to say it, but Kamar and he said it. He's coming to add something, what to get rights. Hanami, so here too is the same thing. You asked me above when he said to the firstborn as is fitting for him, to my wife as is fitting for her, to the as is fitting. He says what came to Lotzarech. Okay, since it was unnecessary. Kamar was coming. Okay, coming to the wife. He said to the wife and to the firstborn. Since he didn't have to say it. Okay, he's coming what to add. He's saying, well, I'm giving this in addition to the debt, in addition to the ksuva, in addition to the firstborn. Tanaban, we learn. A guy's dying. He tells the kids, "Listen, I owe Mr. X $100." Aidim Kosvim, the witnesses who heard it can write down. They write down what they heard from the dying man. So he says they're allowed to write down that he said, "I owe X $100." Alpha Bishay Makirian, okay, even though they don't know the creditor, who he is, and they don't know if there was such a loan. Now, wait a second. Usually, when witnesses write something, they're testifying that something's real. This is a strange case. They're testifying that the guy said he owes Plony $100. They don't know if he owes him $100. They don't even know who Plony is. Okay, but they're allowed to write it down. Because they're just recording what he said. Lefikach, therefore, since they're allowed to write down what they know nothing about, it could be complete fiction. Keshahu Gova, when the creditor wants to collect, he's still going to have to bring some kind of proof. Okay, yeah, the kid, okay, Divra Mayor, they'll have to swear. The kids will shout, they'll have to swear something. Okay, that there really was. They'll have to prove that there really was such a debt. Okay, because the witnesses that wrote it down, what the guy said, they didn't see anything. Okay, he's gonna have to do something. Okay, all these things, this guy said it. So what? He said it. So what? Now, okay, so what? The rabbis say no. Ain't kosvin alim came makirin. The witnesses don't write it down unless they really know that they through based in they know the. I'm sorry, I really apologize. Go back to the beginning. I read it backwards. I apologize. I'm sorry. A guy's dying. He says, Mr. X owes me $100. If I said it backwards, Mr. X owes me $100. Yeah, he owes me $100. The witnesses are allowed to write it down. Even though they don't know the borrower who you said he lent it to, and they don't know that there was such a loan. So therefore, what when the inheritor wants to collect from that guy, the inheritor has no. He says, "No, what's the inheritor got on it to back him up? The witness said that it said that the father said it. Tzarech lavi raya. Pardon me. So the inheritor is going to have to bring a proof that his father really lent the money. And this is the guy, Divrei Meir. They say no. The rabbi say you don't have to. Why? Ain't kosher only came back here. No, that's not the halacha. The halacha is they're not allowed to write it down unless they know the whole thing to be true. They know the borrower and they know the loan took place. Therefore, kashahu gova, when the inheritor is going to come and collect the money, in tzarech lavi raya, he doesn't have to bring any proof. Why? Because when they say that he said it, they're really saying that he said it, and we know that they checked it out, right? We know that it's true. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Lehuna. Rav Nachman said that Huna said to me, he says, Tana, he says, actually, he says, you have to read it the opposite. What it said, that's the argument, but the opinions are reversed. It's really the opposite, where Rav Meir man goes, where Rav Meir says you're not allowed to, it's Rav Meir who says you're not allowed to write it down unless you know. The rabbi say you're allowed to write down even though you don't know. The Af Rabbi Meir, and even Rabbi Meir holds like this, that really what they should have written it. Okay, Lo Amar Elam Mishum based in Torah. Really, they should have written down whatever they are, but we don't do it because we're afraid that a based in will make a mistake. The based in, for the fact that witnesses signed the paper, they'll think it's as if they were witnesses alone. So we don't really. They should write it down, but we don't let them do it. Why? Because we're afraid we have to worry that a based in is not going to be expert. They're going to make a mistake. Amar Rab Dimi Menardah. He says, no, he says, I'm sorry. He says, we do not go around suspecting that a basin doesn't know what they're doing. A basin is smart enough to know that if witnesses say they heard a guy say something, they're not necessarily saying what. They're not saying that it happened. They're saying that the guy said it. That's all. And of course that the orphan is going to have to bring, or the heir is going to have to bring a proof. Okay. I said, 1 second. You don't worry about it. I'll show you. We do worry about that a basin makes a mistake. How can you tell me we don't worry about a mistake in basin? What different didn't Rabba say that we do? Rabba said, okay, when two people come and they say we want to do chalitza, the basin doesn't do chalitza unless they know that these people are really people who need chalitza. They have to know the man and the woman. And if a girl who was married before she reached majority wants to come and say, listen, I reject this marriage, and the basin doesn't accept it unless they know this guy and this girl were really married, etc. The fikach, and since they only do it when they really know who the people are, Kosvin, okay, get chalitza. Therefore, they can write a paper of chalitza. They get miyun and a paper of refusal. Even though what? Even though they don't recognize. Even though they don't know why, because you can write down the paper. The witnesses can write it down, even though the witnesses don't know anything, because the Beis Din never would have done it. The witnesses are saying that we saw it happen. They can say because the Beis Din never would have done it had they not known who it was. Okay, so now you told me what. Okay, so what's the reason? So you see, my timer allowed. Okay, why shouldn't they write it down? Is because you're afraid. You're afraid of a. Why wouldn't you write it down? Because you're afraid of a Beis Din that makes mistakes. I said the only reason we don't do it. In other words, pardon me, I said wrong. What's the reason why the Beis Din can't do it? Because we're afraid another Beis Din will make a mistake. In other words, really, there's no problem. The Beis Din can do it. And another Beis Din will always have to check out if they were really man and wife, so to speak, etc. What's the problem? So the answer is, why don't they do it? Because they have to worry that the next Beis Din is going to make a mistake. Mishum the Beis Din told us be afraid. And we said, we don't worry that any Beis Din is not going to be expert. Says Lo, he says it's not true. Beis Din abasa Beis Din lo daki. He says there's a difference. We never think of the Beis Din what we're doing, but one Beis Din will never be exacting about a previous Beis Din. The later Beis Din will always assume that the previous Beis Din did a good job. Okay, but by us it's no problem. Beis Din abasa edi daki. But a Beis Din after witnesses will take care. If they see witnesses wrote something, the Beis Din will worry about it. If a Beis Din saw another Beis Din did something, they won't. But I will say, I'm sorry, I was a little confused this morning. My wife's leaving and I'm rushing home. That's really what's happening. I apologize to you. I'm a little bit distracted. But I'll tell you a story, it's interesting. You always have a problem with what to do. Rabbi Feinstein, of blessed memory, said a very important thing. He said that rabbis should not write a get. You don't want to write a get. Here, for example, let's say a man's married to a guy. You don't write a get. Why? What's going to happen?
It's not recognized.
No, but another thing, what's going to happen is because next time a rabbi's going to see this woman who's a goy is going to bring her get to get married to a Jew. We'll see if she got a divorce. She must be Jewish. We'll use the get as a proof that she's Jewish. So in general, you have to really know. You have to know that the woman is Jewish before you give her a get. Now, there's a big problem. That's what Feinstein said. There's a big problem though, because often what happens, but unfortunately, we should know for such things. But sometimes there's such strife around the divorce. If you don't write the divorce this minute, you're never gonna see him again. The girl's gonna be stranded forever. Who knows what's gonna happen? You know what I mean? So we want to write a get, even though we haven't had time to really check out if the girl's Jewish or not. Why? Because we may never get a chance again. You're gonna sit here and be timid. You're gonna ruin people's lives. So what do you do? So it's always a problem. So really everybody's supposed to know for sure, but they can't always know. So there are ways that the rabbis tip off the later based in a later rabbi that we never checked it out. Okay, there's ways to do. They write something on it, they let people know, and we have the same issues. They have the same issues. Here you have today a lot of the girl's getting married. She's not a virgin. She's not a virgin. She wasn't religious when she grew up, etc., etc. But now you come in religious circles, they read the ksuba, whatever the story is. What do? They're going to read. She's 20 years old. He's 19 years old. And they're going to write down. She's got a ksuba for 100. You understand? So it's a problem. Some people say no. Some people they say just read it and fudge it over. Don't read it clearly. All kinds of things.
What I said, the chassan had the right to make it more.
So on the other, but listen, see, it's just a paper for money.
Yeah.
Every chassan can write down 200. That's who he wants to give her. It's his prerogative. All right, but what's the problem? Later, we're going to have a problem. We're going to think that this girl was married as a basula, and it's a chance that really she was a girl who's not fit for a kohen. And we're going to later on, the husband dies. If she gets divorced, no problem. But if the husband dies, now she wants to marry a kohen. The rabbi's going to look at her ksuba and think that she was a basula. Well, no problem here. She can marry a kohen because she was a virgin when she got married. She can't have been disqualified from a kohen before this marriage. So she's a widow. She can marry a kohen, no problem. And it's going to be wrong. She's really a girl who was, let's say, didn't behave in the ways that a girl should behave, because maybe whatever it was, and she can't marry a kohen. So you got a big problem. So you have the same problem in both these cases. So years ago, I went to Rabbi Blumenkrantz. He was a Talmud of Rabbi Feinstein. So he told me that he writes down on the paper, hey, we just wrote this. We just wrote this. She's not a psula. He writes down on the ksuba. So the next rabbi will know that if she wants to marry a kohen, she can't marry a kohen. I had a case where
but if he wrote $100, that would go here that she's not a.
No, I'm saying it's the other way. I'm saying the case here is they want to, in order not to embarrass the girl, they want to write 200. That's the case. The case
so that would mean she's a psua.
Oh, so yes, so right. So it's a problem. So Blumenkrantz told me that he writes on the ksuba, hey, she's not a basula, or buyer beware. Rabbi check, or right? Rabbi, look into this further. Check this ksuba out. Look into it further. You see, that's what he'd write something, tipping him off the next guy. Hey, don't take this ksuba so literally. Look into it further. Whatever you write something in there, to tip off the next guy. Whatever he said, I don't remember. So he said he would tip off the next guy. So I had a case where I was supposed to marry a girl to a Jewish boy, and it turns out her mother was adopted. No, in America they adopted. On the contrary, most adoptees are going. Yeah, they're going. Yeah, you're right, exactly, they're going. So I know what to do. So it turned out that she had a divorce paper. So this is exactly the case. She had a divorce paper from her first husband, from her husband. So I figured, this is great, So I said, the only problem is now I have to find out, is this rabbi a rabbi who would make sure that he wouldn't write a divorce or wrote something or did something? But can I see the get? So who has the get? Usually the rabbi who gives the get keeps keeps some record. So it turned out it was Rabbi Greenblatt, not the Greenblatt from Memphis. So now I had no relationship with Nata. I had a relationship with.
He's a Bucky.
He was the guy. But I had a relationship at that time. But later, I had a relationship with him. But at first, I had a relationship with his nephew, with Rabbi Ephraim Greenblatt. So I called up Rabbi Ephraim Greenblatt and I said, "Does your uncle? Can you tell me? Does your uncle Rav Nata write a get for a woman under dire circumstances, will he write again, even though he didn't know the woman was Jewish? He says, he said, I don't know, because he'll call my uncle. So I called up Rabbi, so I called up Rabbi Nata. So he says to me, he says, I'll check the get. He said, what year was it? I tell him, he says, first, I don't know what happened. He says, all the getting from that year disappeared. He don't know what happened. All the getting from that year disappeared. He has no record. He doesn't know. So I'm stuck. And he was the nicest person. He said, don't worry. He says, I said, I'm stuck. I have to know if the woman was Jewish. He would have written something, so I'll check it out. If he divorced her because he was in a rush, saying and didn't know, he would have written something to note, that happened. They all have some trick, So he said, I said, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I'm supposed to do this wedding. What am I going to do? He said, give me the woman's number. He said, I'll check it out. And he did me the favor and he took responsibility to interrogate her and decide if the woman was Jewish and if I could marry her daughter to the guy. He did me a big, it was really. No, he did say, he told me he checked it out. She's Jewish, it's fine. But he was very kind. He had no obligation to me. It's my problem, not his problem. It's my problem. But he checked it out. He checked. It was very sweet. Him and also his nephew treated me. I'm telling you, I have such fond memories of Ephraim. Every time I went there, I'm a know nothing nobody from nowhere. And every time I went to Memphis, he would sit next to me when I spoke. I'm telling you, he sat next to me. And when I finished, he discussed what I said with me. As if I